Hello there, you beautiful people. My name is Willow, and welcome back to Supreme Commander Forged Alliance Forever for a high-rated 1v1 played on the map Point of Reach version 4. Let's go ahead and get into player introductions, starting with the blue player in the north and ending with the red player in the south. And we're gonna begin with the blue Cybran going first, land by the name of SilentNoob. Then we can go ahead and move down to the south with the red Aeon Best faction going first, land, and his name is BRS DCCC97. I don't know why I said it so weird, but we have these players introduced. Let's go ahead and look at their opening build orders, and while we do, we can talk about the map. It's a map I have casted a lot recently, thanks to it being pretty prevalent in the 4v4 team matchmaker queue. Of course, it's called Adaptive Point of Reason, but they're the same map. And of course, we have to talk about it. It's a Navy map. Yes, everybody loves a good Navy map. There's a lot of islands. There's going to be some island hopping campaigns where these players have to build land units to fight for the islands, I'm sure. And of course, we're going to see big old naval battles, so strap in and get ready, because it's going to be a fun one. These two players, both at relatively high rating levels of 1700-ish between them, and it's going to be a fun one to watch. It was played on the 1v1 ladder. We've got a lot of 1v1 high-level action for you players today, for you watchers. And of course, if you are enjoying all the content that I put out, and I do put out a lot of it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already, and also consider joining the channel membership to get access to every video early, or the channel Patreon to get your name at the end of each video. With that out of the way, and the build orders pretty much very similar for both of these players, and starting out, let's go ahead and zoom out, look at the map. So we have a lot of islands here. The most important islands, of course, are going to be these two for each side, as they have the most mexes and they are kind of core to what you need to be doing. Then we have this island and this island that these players really need to fight over in order to get value. They want to hold on to about 3 of the major islands at least to stay on parity with the other player. So gonna have to see exactly how that goes on. Already have a transport coming out from the red Aeon BRS, and he is going to be sending his engineers, I believe, mostly right here. He could do a bit of a cheeky play here, and in fact, no, he's just going out for the further island first, just going to send an engineer to this island to try and grab it, which is very interesting. Also sending the commander out. So is SilentNoob. SilentNoob's commander is also making the trek out to this island over here. So both sides going for something very similar. The interceptors now starting to get close for SilentNoob towards BRS's drop over here, but I think his drop is gonna be okay. He's dropping the vast majority of the engineers at this 4-mex expansion, usually a starting point for players in team games, and is going to be able to drop 1 engineer way off to this side if the interceptors do not intercept this transport. So very good things happening early on. And right now, SilentNoob, he's going for the hard contest. He wants to try and take over this island that BRS went for as well, and BRS doing a little bit of transport micro in order to save his own transport there to kill off the interceptors and to get the engineer down. So very nice little play coming out over there. SilentNoob going to be dropping this far western mass point on this island, and you have to assume he's going to build that mech very quickly and then build up a bunch of factories and try and win a land war. In fact, going straight for the factories, not particularly caring about the land or that mech there, doesn't think it really matters. So is going to try and build up a huge land spam production over here. And land spam already going to be starting out for BRS, but he needs to scout this. He needs to know what's going on right over there. If he doesn't, this could be a fatal flaw in his early strategy. And now this transport almost assuredly going to go down. It is going to take a while. As it's landed, a little bit harder for those interceptors to lock on and deal damage to it. He's down to 84 HP. Is he going to be able to save it? Wow, he might be able to save that transport, and he does indeed manage it. Very nice play coming out from BRS here in the early game, but as I said, he needs to know about that. He does have a radar now, and he can see that there's a lot of units over here, and that might prompt him to build more land factories. He's already down in total land factory count. His comm is relatively close, so once his comm builds up these mexes in this factory, could just walk it over, and that would be a relatively strong way to just deal with this. But has to be worried about it. Now throws his own interceptors over that area, does scout it out, does see everything going on. Does he immediately respond by building a bunch of factories? That seems like the play, and yes, he is going to start getting factories down. Needs to be worried about the T1 bomber coming out from SilentNoob. That Zeus could be a problem. Lots of flares now already out on the field for BRS. His factories were done first, so for the moment, he does have the production advantage. Losing an engineer needs to not have that happen. And unfortunately, looks like he may lose both engineers there. And this could be horrible. And now, over here to the west, SilentNoob has managed to drop this island as well. So he's playing for the entire map. Very nice play coming out from SilentNoob there. As naval production now starting up for BRS. And also, naval production going to be starting up very soon for SilentNoob. The land battle is kind of the most important part of this as of the moment. Does have an engineer out over here to try and build up that factory still. And I believe, yes, the comm is going to be sent out over here. Does he have an E-storage is the question. Overcharge is going to be a little bit critical over here, so he's going to need to build up that E-storage as soon as possible. And is getting out some shimmer bombers to stun up these factories, try and slow the production of units coming out from SilentNoob. Would love to see those engineers go down. 5 engineers going down to a bomb there. That is huge. That's going to slow down the production of more land factories over here for SilentNoob. But for now, he's definitely delaying the expansion efforts of BRS, and that alone is going to have some value to it as he's getting his own expansions over here. And all of this early mass extractor play is not actually resulting in an advantage for SilentNoob. He's behind economically. So that is going to be interesting. He's in a power stall. Is that because, I think that's because he's building so many air factories. He's got a lot of power generators on the way. Does he have T2 going onto any of these? No, he does not. But that's most certainly going to be a power stall. Yes, it is. That's going to be a very unfortunate time to power stall as well, as right now BRS going to be making landfall with that Aeon Commander. And going to be able to start walking around getting kills onto that commander as we speak. Would love to see him go for the factories though. I think that commander could walk up and start reclaiming the factories pretty easily. And with BRS using that comm aggressively, I would love to see a reclaim order. I think it does a little bit more for killing off these factories faster. But doesn't want to get too close, doesn't want to risk himself, and he is building up a decent contingent of units back here, and any units that are tasked with dealing with his commander are kind of be wasted, especially if he manages to get the attack order off and SilentNoob doesn't respond properly, and SilentNoob going to start losing a lot of Mantis here to the range disadvantage. And it does seem as though BRS is going to be able to push him off this point. Also has a Beacon-class frigate, and you have to remember the Beacon-class got a range upgrade. It got a range buff. So that means that BRS, he's going to be in a much stronger position here. He's going to be able to use these Beacon-class frigates And you're going to be able to see that the range of them is just long enough to pick off a few more of these factories than maybe some of the other factions would have been able to. And that's going to be very important here in the early game. Also, managing to not... I don't think this was a drop. He just waltzed over with a couple of Aurora. And they're going to be able to kill off some of these mexes. That's going to be very unfortunate. Even kill off the engineer building naval factories. Which means SilentNoob going to be stunted a little bit over here in the northeastern corner. A transport over to the west for BRS goes down. He was trying to contest this island much like his opponent did to him. But it's not going to work. All of these factories should just stop producing. He wants to get as much reclaim as possible. Because as of the moment, this reclaim is all going to be going towards BRS. And in fact, no, he's doubling down. He's going to try and build up some PD, going to try and get himself set up to continue contesting this island. I feel like the mass investment over here for SilentNoob is actually going to bite him a little bit, because he's just leaving a lot more reclaim. And in fact, he was just using Medusa, from the looks of it, to fire on his own reclaim. Try and stop BRS from getting that, but this early scrimmage has led to BRS being almost 1,000 mass ahead in reclaim, and he's ahead on mass generation. So despite SilentNoob playing very well in the early game with this aggression, unable to make it matter where it matters most, which is the economy bar. And he's gonna start losing all of this, and all of this stuff he's losing is just reclaim for BRS. He's not really under threat of losing this island anymore. Sure, he had to invest a lot into some land spam, but SilentNoob is investing just as much, if not more, into building all these factories. And BRS, he's no longer got the mass advantage, but he is doing just fine here, and the reclaim will matter a lot. He's already over 5,000 mass generation total ahead, but a drop onto the main island coming out from SilentNoob of a few Medusa. Unfortunately, the Medusa, they're not going to do too well, especially with the fervors already down. And without any micro, these Medusa will go down extremely quickly. Yeah. They're maybe going to kill off a T2 Mex if they're lucky. No, they don't even get it. 60 HP remaining. That was just a very unfortunate situation. Luckily, not a mass dump. Fervors do enough overkill to kill off all the reclaim there. So, no harm, no foul there. But a nice move out of him, not going to result in too much. And now he's ahead on overall economy. But I can't imagine that will last for too long. With all of this extra reclaim that BRS is managing to get, it's most likely just going to result in a relatively even game state with a 3,000 mass reclaim advantage for BRS. You have to imagine he's going to start upgrading some of these mexes on this side island very soon. Yep, one already, a couple actually, in fact, already going up quite high in overall upgrade progress. And naval production, we have 6 factories out for SilentNoob, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 for BRS. But SilentNoob did manage to take over this island, which for all intents and purposes probably should belong to BRS. It'll just take 1 or 2 frigates to clean this up, though. And we've managed to land at a relatively even game state here at 13 minutes. Up here to the northwest, SilentNoob casually sitting on his island. BRS sitting on his island. Needs to re-expand, take over all these mexes, and maybe even fight for this island over here. SilentNoob having a slight map control advantage, but he keeps on going into these power stalls. And that really hurts him, as his opponent has just really overbuilt a lot of power. But that's okay. That's just banked up reclaim for a little bit later. Think that BRS is in a stronger position overall, despite not having map control as well as his opponent. And now BRS sending out frigates kind of just everywhere. And he definitely has the naval advantage, currently sitting on 24 frigates and 5 submarines, versus just 9 Tridents. That's just not going to be the greatest situation right now for SilentNoob, but he does have T2 engineers going out onto the water for some reason. Wonder if that was a misclick. I wonder what he has a T2 air factory. T2 air also done for BRS, so not much of a difference there. BRS going immediately for T3, and he's already at 65% completion on that. And T3 not on the way for SilentNoob. He's going for a Corsair. And we are looking at BRS with a huge naval advantage, while SilentNoob sitting on a slight mass advantage and an I don't even know if he really has an air advantage. We can go ahead and check the interceptor count. 17 versus BRS's 41. It just seems like BRS is ahead, which is surprising considering the rating differential. He's giving up nearly 100 rating points over to SilentNoob, so you'd expect some more. You just expect a little bit more solid play coming out from SilentNoob, and he is getting up a lot of T2 mass extractors, but so is BRS, and BRS is even managing to cap some mexes at home. Got a shield up to protect the core mexes just in case he's behind on air, but in fact he's ahead on air. He's gonna have a T3 Pigeon here soon. It's time to start reclaiming these T1 Pigeons to throw the mass and the power from them into this quantum reactor. And a T1 bomber down here to the south gonna start harassing, but you can't imagine that'll last too long. A few interceptors will show up to deal with that. More Medusa land, and they are finally gonna kill off that T2 Mex. No, they don't manage it. Still 60 HP, still pumping out 6 mass a second. It's probably already paid itself off. And down to the south, just the overwhelming number of naval units. It just feels like BRS has more. And he should. The Aeon, so much superior to the Cybern. And over here to the east, a lot of T1 bombers coming in. Don't know what they're going for. Could pick off some of these engineers if they feel like it, but maybe just going for the mexes in the core base over here. Nope, in fact, going to be going for this random mex in the middle. I guess it's one of the harder ones to replace. And BRS working on T2 on the commander. He's moved the commander back to this island. And a single frigate over here was harassing, killed off a couple of mexes for BRS. But it's being chased down by 5 enemy frigates, so it's going to be in a very sad position here soon. And I'm wondering when BRS is going to go for that T... Oh no, he lost a lot of his engineers to the Corsairs. Oh, I completely missed that. You can see the Corsair Rex right here killing off a lot of those engineers. He needs to finish that T3 Pigeon, because right now the power stall is a little bit brutal. But once he finishes that up, if he can get up a T3 Mex, he can easily transition into a T2-based Navy. And right now, the Navy, it's being caught up on by SilentNoob up to 27 frigates, but it's still 39 frigates and 10 submarines. No submarines for SilentNoob means that there's a lot of free damage right now for BRS. So he's got to play it defensively, but I think he feels kind of strong. He feels like he has the production to counter BRS, but BRS being down on mass doesn't seem to really matter too terribly much, because he just has more as of the moment. He can just use his unit advantage to buy him time to get mass increase. And now he's working on a strat bomber, and SilentNoob, he has T3 air done. He's working on the T3 Pigeon. That T3 Pigeon's going to go up very slowly. I'm sure he doesn't really have the power to support it. He doesn't have as much power as BRS did. And now a naval fight breaking out, and it's firmly in the territory of BRS, so this reclaim most certainly going to BRS, and this is 100% a win. There's no submarines here, and he might even be outnumbered on frigate count. So that's just going to be very poor for SilentNoob right now. It's good to see him being aggressive, though, and he does sit on a very good economy, so if he can just keep scaling up, keep getting up more factories, he will be in a good position. I think by no means is he in a horrible position right now, but needs to be a little bit careful with the Navy, needs to just keep his head on a swivel, try and not engage too heavily, because a large engagement right now is a loss for SilentNoob and a win for BRS. A Wagner went across the entire map and is now trying to kill off the T3 Pigeon. Should just die to even reclaim at this point, and yeah, not going to be able to pick that up. A Strat Bomber is done for BRS. Let's go ahead and get tracking down onto that and check onto SilentNoob. Is that T3 Pigeon done? It is, and he's building up some Gemini ASF. So he will have a response to this. More Wagners trying to make their way under the water over to this side. Built a T2 HQ over here on this western island. The strategic bomber heading out. Where is the ASF? It's already moving its way over towards the Strat Bomber. And this shield critically doesn't protect all of the T2 mexes. And that's going to be 2 T2 mexes going down. 2,800 mass already. It's already pretty much paid itself off. If it can manage to get another bomb like that down right here, that will be huge. Oh, it's going to be close whether or not it can drop. It does drop, which means that this bomber picks up nearly 5,000, if not more, mass killed. And it only drops 1,000 onto the other side. That's going to hurt SilentNoob quite a little bit, as a large naval engagement's happening over here. And yet again, no submarines, no destroyers built up yet for SilentNoob. So these submarines are just free damage. It doesn't matter if the surface fight goes a little bit poorly, the submarines will clean this up. So right now, BRS getting aggressive, pushing in. He doesn't have T2 Navy himself yet, so SilentNoob does have a good advantage right here. Already building up a cruiser. Don't know the logic behind the cruiser. I feel like it'd be a little bit better to get out a destroyer in this situation. But as for now, he is rolling with the punches, but now he's going to start losing naval production. And you really need this frigate production if you want to keep moving forward. And over here to the east, I would love to see BRS maybe throw some mass investment into getting up some T2 land factories over here. Start getting out ascendants, start getting out asylums, and just get some good value out of those. Another Strat Bomber done for BRS. He wants to continue to harass the eco of SilentNoob and force out the micro. All of the air-to-air fighters, except for, I mean, I guess there's some interceptors and some ASF in the main base. So this probably won't be nearly as effective as the original bomber, but does still kill off a T2 Mex and then drops itself in the water, which halves the reclaim value of that wreck and also puts it in an awkward position to reclaim. I mean, this one over here already grabbed up. Stealth now on the way for SilentNoob. Has T2 finished up on the commander. Where is the teching of the naval production? It's not here yet, and the Wagners are making landfall. This could be huge. Fervors are going to show up. At least one T3 Pigeon most likely going to go down. Oh no, is this going to be another situation where he has, he had that Mex living on 60 HP? Come on, fire into it. Okay, he gets the T3 Pigeon. But not as clean as maybe he wanted that to be. It was a little bit risky. And no T2 land coming out. Oh no, T2 land is finished up for BRS, and he could go for a lot of T2 land production over here. He doesn't have T2 Navy yet. It seems as though he has a lot of engineers building up right here. Maybe he'll go for it right here. He should have seen the cruiser by now. Or he at least knows that there's a T2 Naval HQ. And overall economies, BRS ahead a little bit, but not too terribly ahead. Overall mass generation, he's about 15,000 mass ahead of his opponent, so that's pretty good. And has T2 Navy built over here, but this is very forward. I'd love to see him get multiple T2 Naval HQs. If he's going to build one over there, he needs one over here. This is just such a safer area for him to control. Overall navies, it's starting to look like SilentNoob might be in the lead. 48 frigates and a Salem and a cruiser versus 82 frigates. Never mind. I mean, 82 frigates still beats that. Those two T2 ships are not worth 40 frigates on their own. Maybe with insane micro, but I don't think that's the case. He's about to have his own destroyer out, but the issue is he's losing all of this build power. And it's going to be very painful. Using Aurora now to try and hunt down these frigates, but now he has to worry about all of these torpedo bombers. Has a bunch of T1AA, which will slowly kill them off, but that's not going to do too well. The HQ falling down to half HP. He's going to get at least one destroyer out of it, I believe. He's repairing it. And his ASF do show up to clean up the torpedo bombers. As over here in the middle, needs to make sure he either needs to take the full engagement or he needs to fall back and not take range damage. Does have this heavily assisted naval factory, needs to get it upgrading though. And down here to the south, more Wagner is going to be showing up. That power generator was just reclaimed. There's some T1 PD. I'd love to see, like, just throw up 3 Oblivion, and they'll stop this from being a major issue. Unless he banks up a ton of them, which would be not that... be a huge risky play. Is all I'll say about that. T3 mexes going up in mass now for BRS, up to 300 mass a second. All of his core mexes are T3. And SilentNoob, I'm not seeing a single T3 mex. Trying to spot out all of the mass points. Does seem as though maybe he's going for one. Yeah, he is. But he's now behind by like 50 mass generation, which is huge. And there's now a destroyer over here to the east for BRS. T3 is now done for SilentNoob. Could go for cloaking, make his comm just impossible to find. Strat Bomber comes out, kills off a T2 mex. It's not going to be too terribly impactful. I guess maybe it killed off one of the ones that were upgrading, though. Yeah, it does look as though it did. But this one right here could begin an upgrade and has a lot of build power nearby. Over here to the east, the naval factory under siege, but all of the Aurora over here are going to eat a lot of shots. The destroyer, the Exodus, is going to get some value, but unfortunately it's just too much. And BRS going to lose this position, most likely going to lose the HQ. He has rebuilt an HQ back at his base, which is good. He's losing some naval factories, which is unfortunate. And SilentNoob behind on eco, but doing a lot better in these small engagements. And the reclaim over here, BRS getting all of it. The Exodus class rolls off the line. And now it might be enough. I mean, that HQ most likely goes down. Not going to save it. But this reclaim field will be secured by him. And the Navy out for SilentNoob, going to run away. Huge naval fight brewing down here in the center of the map. I would love to see a commit coming out from BRS. 112 frigates. Sure, a lot of them are over here, but this alone is 80 frigates versus SilentNoob sitting on 46. The 3 destroyers do matter, but I don't think they matter enough to counter that much of a naval advantage. And the push comes out from BRS. SilentNoob has to fall back. And BRS still, he has these submarines, and these submarines are still getting huge value, just pouring damage into frigates. I think building those early was a good call out from BRS. And I think he's continuing to build a handful because, I mean, they're continuing to get this value. Down here to the south, a lot of naval factories going up for SilentNoob. BRS does know about it, needs to scout it, needs to throw something over there to just go shut it down. Basically, one wave of reinforcements off of his lines can go deal with it. And he's going for T3 Navy. He's going to try and get up Omen classes. T3 Navy not on the way yet for SilentNoob. And it seems as though BRS seemingly happy to sort of skip the T2 phase, which is interesting. I feel the Aeon have a very strong T2 phase of their Navy, but he's kind of just got enough T1 to say, screw it, I'll go T3, and then your destroyers will struggle very, very much so against my Navy. And SilentNoob running back to his main base after getting all those upgrades. Hasn't really used them. Some Wagners making their way onto land over here, going to be dealt with by bombers. The Wagner harass, he's tried to get a lot out of it, but hasn't really managed to get much of anything. Over here, this cruiser and frigate still gaining value. They're going to be able to kill off some of these resourcing options for BRS, but BRS now building hover spam, which is a very cost-effective way to battle Navy. And on top of just having the naval advantage, the hover spam will do very well on its own as well. And he can use it to be very harassing. He can just go around the side, commit his main naval to a battle, and then just send the hover around the side, and it can get onto land. It can do a lot of damage to economies. A lot of naval units now going down over here for BRS, and his sonar most likely going to go down as well. Very unfortunate. Not that it's too expensive to replace. And the first battleship under production, already up to 40%. And a lot of Navy now being produced down here. Does BRS know about it? Is he responding to it? Doesn't seem so. Doesn't seem like he's too aware of that right now. But if he can get in, if he can get the naval production, this forward naval production for SilentNoob down, I don't see a way for SilentNoob to recover if he just loses the vast majority of his naval factories, which are all right here. And BRS seemingly going for the kill. He has an Exodus up here with some asylums to help it stay alive. He has some blazes to deal some damage to the factories. And all of SilentNoob's Navy is tied up dealing with this overwhelming number of T1 Navy spam. And right now, SilentNoob looking like he's in a spot of bother. If the destroyers... Oh, he's going to send the asylums to sit on top of the destroyers, but he loses power. Oh, that's horrible. If the power flicks back on and those asylums can tank some damage, it'll be very impactful here. He's losing factories slowly. He needs to start rebuilding them. He needs naval production. He's going for a lot of torpedo bombers. I don't know, maybe he has air control. It does seem as though that might be the case. Up to 35 ASF versus 40. No, doesn't even necessarily have air control. I mean, it's close. He could gain it. If Ascendants start coming out en masse, this will be very difficult to deal with. And down to the south, the battleship has come off the line. Seems as though it might have to be used to clean up this production that's behind the enemy lines for SilentNoob. And the air fight goes heavily in favor of SilentNoob. He kind of missed it a little bit, but that air fight definitely a positive for him. But he loses a lot of his torpedo bombers. Now going to get out some strat bombers. And the naval production's still under threat. He's microing very well. This battleship is going to slowly pick off one frigate at a time. And the Cormorant torpedo bombers, they're going to be picked off by just a small contingent of ASF. But the overall naval numbers, they've kind of shifted. BRS still sitting on 42 frigates, but now 30 frigates and 11 destroyers for SilentNoob. He's going to need to get out a lot of battleships very quickly in order to make this Tech 3 rush worth it. He does have the economy to do so, but I really think it'd be in his best interest to just upgrade a few of these to T2 and have them mass produce Exodus as kind of a stopgap. And this naval production to the south, it needs to be dealt with. overall air numbers, we have 34 ASF versus 25, so BRS has recovered in the air very well. I think he has a bit of a stronger air grid right now. The naval battle has left the biggest reclaim field imaginable, 27,000 right here, for these players, and it's firmly in the hands of SilentNoob if he can manage to hold on to his navy. With these battleships, he could start pushing forward and trying to take over that area. But SilentNoob focusing on T2 Navy seems to have been the right call. And now we have a contingent of strat bombers over on the western side. I wonder what they're going to go for. Does BRS notice them? He doesn't. He might have an Omni. But if he does, it's not going to really warn him until a little bit too late. So these strat bombers over to the west, they can get some very high value damage done very soon. And here in the middle, these destroyers just getting massive value, but two battleships showing up is going to throw a wrench into the plans of SilentNoob. These battleships will deal with the destroyers very quickly, and as long as BRS can continue his frigate production he's done all game, he will be able to push back SilentNoob. The strat bombers are just hovering over here, wasting fuel. Wait, do strat bombers have fuel? Yeah, they do. 13 minutes left on those. Air fight breaking out over to the east. Who is going to come out on top? But this air fight over to the east really opens up BRS. He wins the air fight, but now there's strat bombers, 4 of them, just sitting in this corner. SilentNoob cannot forget about these. He needs to use them and probably use them now. And the frigate count for BRS has plummeted. He's now got another T2 factory online to get out destroyers. And the torpedo bombers coming in. It looks as though they're going for the naval HQ. A repair order is in order. And it does seem as though the repair is coming out. Is it going to be enough? It will. That T3 naval HQ lives to survive and lives to build another day. Lives to survive another day is a little bit redundant, isn't it? And the 3 Omen class over here, one of which kind of hurt, but going to be able to get a lot of value, are pushing forward. And SilentNoob, he's gotten up to T3 Navy himself, but he's going to be woefully behind in battleship count. And he is still massively behind in economy. He's nearing 100,000 mass generation total disadvantage. This one Salem has been way too effective. It needs to die. Finally does. And more naval factories have been built up in the backline by BRS. He knows how important those frigates are. And he also has a lot of asylums and flak now coming out of the land factories over here, which he can use to try and buffer for damage and even kill off torpedo bombers. And BRS now has the naval advantage, I'd say. He had the air advantage, and he still slightly does. But neither player really just building up a huge cloud of ASF. Both of them, they'll take an air fight, they'll win it, they'll take their temporary air advantage and translate that into some torpedo bombers. But these 3 Omen classes are going to be super valuable. And we're about to have 1 galaxy, but 1 galaxy just loses. The Omen out DPSs all of the other battleships. So as long as he's aggressive, as long as he gets in range, as long as he realizes, hey, I have more Omens, and just shoves them into the enemy battleships and doesn't try and play from max range, it will be a very effective strategy for BRS. He now has an aircraft carrier, which will help tremendously with dealing with things like torpedo bombers. And his frigate production, yet it was kind of stunted for a moment, but he has a lot more now. He's going to be able to use it to throw out a ton of frigates to sit in front of these battleships. And that's what they're really good at doing. They're really good at soaking up damage. Reclaim numbers coming in. 53,000 for BRS versus a paltry 8,000 for SilentNoob. BRS is just playing very well. Those strap bombers, I mean, maybe they came in and did something, but I'm not sure where they really ended up being. The air grid is still intact, so I can't imagine they got too much. And BRS, 4 omens. I feel you need to start getting a little bit aggressive. Like, sure, he may start reaching parity with you on battleships here soon, but he's just behind on frigates, and frigates can win a battleship war. Maybe the strap bombers seemingly hit over here. At least one wreck is remaining. Killed off some mass production, which actually really hurt BRS. That must have been full T3. Because now he's behind on mass production, and that's not power stall related. But now he's going to start getting damage of his own down onto the T3 mexes over here for SilentNoob. But I feel he just needs to focus down these 2 galaxies that are right in front of him. And it does seem as though that's happening. And that omen in the front there, eating a lot of damage. Or that galaxy in the front, I should say. And the omens, they're getting to do what they do best. What battleships in general do best. Fighting from their range. Fighting on their terms. These frigates are able to just sit in the front and do what they need to do. I'd really like him to focus down all of this build power, though, because it's going to start becoming an issue, and I think he's a little bit too close to the island to get that range advantage that the Omen has and really abuse it. Over here to the west, large attacks, just like distraction attacks coming out from SilentNoob, and he's killed off a lot of production, and now he's going for the T3 naval production. Needs to repair that factory, does BRS. He's been doing this a lot this game. A lot of factory repairs going on, but he does manage it just in time, and he's going to be able to keep that alive, and he has 2 battleships here to clean up whatever is coming. And in the front, he still has all 4 battleships, and he's focusing fire onto 1 galaxy at a time. One's already dead, another one about to go down. He even has asylums to catch some of these bullets coming out of the, or some of these shells coming out from the SilentNoob's galaxies. And all of these frigates, they're going to be soaking damage. I don't think the galaxy has AoE on its attack either. So these omens sitting on top of each other is not the worst thing. And the galaxies, he needs to focus them down. But instead going for production. He doesn't know that those are Galaxy class battleships. Needs to get the asylums back on top of his omens before they take too much more damage. One of the omens possibly going down. The one in the back already died. He doesn't really have any reinforcement omens coming out. I mean, I guess they're coming out now. He's had to deal with these attacks near his production line. But he's managed to kill off so much of the naval production for SilentNoob that you have to be worried. I mean, just these frigates are about to be able to come in, and if you kill off all the build power on this factory, it will be just as good as killing off the factory. Galaxies take a long time to build, and sure, he's hemorrhaging omens due to mostly this Gunther battery now. But it's just starting to look dangerous now for SilentNoob. He's losing the Navy. He's building up T2 torpedo launchers, which are arguably the worst unit in the game for what they do, for how weak they are for their price. And BRS, he needs to catch back up economically. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, but you have to give credit where it's due. He's doing very well in the Navy. And SilentNoob, we have to give him a lot of credit here. He has been holding on against massive disadvantage in the Navy, and he's really turned it around. He seems to have now the better naval force, but now there is a Tsar on the way. BRS wants to go for that kind of experimental air power, and he has so much air production. You're just seeing so many torpedo bombers out in the field. 89 ASF versus 69. Nice. And torpedo bombers being used in mass over here to deal a lot of damage. Sure, they're all gonna die, but gonna kill off some of the Navy here. BRS's Aeon Armada is doing wonders for him. He's getting out a lot more Omens now. The Kiefer class aircraft carrier here in the middle, basically 2 mobile SAMs, and can produce torpedo bombers for him. All of those Gunthers going down is going to be a huge blow to SilentNoob. That was a very expensive investment, and it didn't even last all that long. And the reclaim, 90,000 reclaim. It doesn't matter when you're behind economically, just by, like, even if he's behind like 100 mass a second, but it doesn't matter. He's reclaiming more than 100 mass a second. If we just click on him, you can see he's getting constant reclaim. He's in a power stall right now, which is unfortunate, but that's mostly because he's building a Tsar, and it's very power hungry in task to do. He has so many torpedo bombers just flying out of everywhere. Finally cleaning up some of this production down to the south, and going to be moving up to the north with a lot of frigates. And his battleships are slowly sieging the original island of SilentNoob. SilentNoob still playing the harassing game very well, though. From minute 1, he's been harassing BRS, pulling him in many directions at once. He's now starting an air grid over on this second island as more naval battles take place. And we find ourselves at a bit of an impasse, 46 minutes in, and BRS takes a huge air fight. I don't know if it's going to go too well for him. He's fighting over a bunch of SAMs, but it still seems as though he might win it. I think maybe he just wants to clear the field of all air, but fighting over the SAMs seems like a big mistake there. He just wants to lower the number of ASF as his Tsar comes out. The Tsar itself very adept at fighting air battles, and I will say that I think BRS still has better air production, or has 8 air factories versus SilentNoob sitting on only 4. Maybe there's a bit more assistance for SilentNoob's air factories. But with that Tsar completed, I think the big call is just go for some of these side islands. The biggest thing you want to avoid is fighting near cruisers or SAMs. So over here in the center, huge naval fight still going on. Omens, frigates, tons of asylums, some flaks, some blazes. Just tons of units for both sides. I think BRS is getting a lot of value out of these hover units just sitting right here in the middle of the navy of SilentNoob. And the Tsar is now moving out. What's the overall ASF count? We're looking at 31 versus 37. That is enough that the Tsar just wins the air fight for him by default. So this Tsar might be the straw that breaks the camel's back for SilentNoob. The only place this Tsar cannot go is right here where all the SAMs are. I would think you want to go for these side islands. The main island, you know there's SAMs there. It's the one place you can't attack reliably. And it seems as though he agrees going for the most valuable side island, the one with the most mexes. And the air for SilentNoob comes in. He's trying to take the air fight. BRS really not even microing his ASF at all. And BRS really loses the air fight there, but there may be enough AA on the Tsar to just kill off these ASF anyway. And the Tsar needs to keep moving. It needs to move now. It needs to move. He can't have it sitting here. And he is going to win the air fight using the Tsar. And over to the east, the naval fight not looking good for SilentNoob either. And the Tsar is firing. Needs to come into this base though. Needs to get some damage done. Oh, look at that beautiful shot of the Tsar firing. And SilentNoob tried to build some AA, but it just didn't work. And now losing all of these T3 mexes is going to be massive. Wouldn't be surprised to see SilentNoob control K at this point. Where is the commander of SilentNoob? It's up here to the north. It has stealth. I don't think a telemazer is really on the cards for him. We'll have to see if he goes for it. ARAS done for BRS. And he's now sitting on quite the economy. And the Tsar, it's killing off T3 mexes so quickly. It's going to put BRS in the economic lead very soon. And SilentNoob going to lose an entire island over here of T3 mexes. BRS did lose quite a bit of naval production building that Tsar. It was very expensive. And it cost him a lot of mass and power, so he wasn't producing as many boats. But now he can refocus up onto that, and he's proven time and time again, even when he falls a little bit behind in his overall naval numbers, it's been working out for him because he can rebuild faster. It's not about how many boats you have, it's about how many you can replace them with when they die. And now using Spectres to kill off reinforcing boats. It's going to be very valuable here, and even can get some damage down onto more economy. And you can see SilentNoob, he was over BRS's economy by a lot, and now he's just plummeting thanks to this Tsar. And now thanks to Spectres coming out, getting damage down onto net mass extractors. This T3 mech's almost assuredly going to go down. Flak now being thrown up over here to try and deal with it. But there's still no answer to the Tsar, really. And now the battleships. The numbers are better for SilentNoob, but there's so much hover spam, so many asylums. They're just eating so much damage that the Omens get to have a lot more free firing time. There's a lot of frigates now coming off the line to help out. The Tsar killing off all of this naval production, up to 92,000 mass killed in just a couple of minutes. And SilentNoob, it's gonna be getting desperate very, very soon. He's down below 400 mass, or 500 mass a second, which seems... normally you're like, oh, 400 mass a second, that's great, but he's starting to look a little bit poor with how much he's obligated to spend. A ton of T2 AA, which is actually the best thing to build against the Tsar. It's better than building T3 AA, has more DPS, and it really just doesn't miss a Tsar. It's too big and too slow, forcing the Tsar to run away from that position. And the air fight going on here. For some reason, the ASF of BRS aren't really firing, which is weird. And he did fly over some SAMs, but he's still just... The key issue is he has more air production than SilentNoob. And SilentNoob still hasn't really addressed that. I mean, he's trying to build up more. But I can't imagine he has the power to afford this. No, he just doesn't. And BRS doing a lot better at power balancing his economy means that he is just going to be able to produce a lot easier. Pretty much everything. And despite kind of losing this naval engagement in the middle, it just doesn't feel like it's going to matter too much. He'll be able to replace this, and if worse comes to worse, can just go for mass torpedo bomber to deal with this, or even just send the Tsar to go deal with it. And it seems as though he wants to throw the Tsar out to the air grid, which honestly, even if you lose the Tsar, if you take out the air grid, if you take out the air HQ, it's over. Because there's no way he's going to be able to take down the Tsar. 5 ranks of veterancy, over 120,000 mass killed. The Tsar will go down. SilentNoob will kill the Tsar, but the question is always, at what cost? SilentNoob says, just how is it not dying? And the answer is veterancy. And honestly, the Tsar isn't even gonna die. Over 140 HP a second is quite a bit. And with that, I would not be surprised to see SilentNoob control K. That is the game. The Tsar now free to approach the position of SilentNoob. Not that it will, it'll just kill off all the HQs and the build power. SilentNoob's gonna have 400 mass and no mass a second and no way to spend it. This Tsar was a very heads up play out from BRS. And I'm very happy with it. Love to see that Aeon Tech running amok in the enemy base. Credit to SilentNoob for not just control K-ing the second he saw it, trying to play it out. The flak, almost 200,000 mass killed. It's almost killed a Maver worth of mass. And that is going to be a lot of dead factories. Is this just a move order? Might be an attack order. And the Aeon reign supreme in this match. SilentNoob, I mean, a snipe is an only option. And I don't think a snipe's going to happen. So we're going to go ahead and speed it up. The naval battle even starting to go against him. And the Tsar is going to find the commander, kill off his supporting engineers. And we watch the depth charges of the saucer of the Tsar go down and hurt the commander of SilentNoob. He's down to 10,000 HP and falling. And I'd like to thank you all for watching. Thank you to the channel members and Patreons who support this channel. Please consider joining those programs if you want to support the channel further. But if you want to help me out the most, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing this video with your friends. This is Willow, signing off.